Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. Sandro Musgrove here. Hope you guys are doing well. Give the video a thumbs up and also hit that subscribe button to the channel. This episode brought to you by NORD VPN. You need this on your devices. It is the best protection out there for your laptop, your phone, your tablet to stop the scammers getting your details. One subscription, which costs, the equivalent of a cup of coffee every single month, can be used up onto 10 devices, which is the best protection around. I use this personally. I really recommend it to you guys. You can get an exclusive deal by clicking the link in the podcast description. There are a host of other benefits as well to using NordVPN. It is a really good tool to use, brilliant value for money, and just gives you that peace of mind when you are out and about that your details, that your financial details are all secure. I really do recommend you get this product. Today's video is all about me trying to bring some positivity to the Newcastle United fan base, because it does seem a little doom and gloom out there. Newcastle United lost to Brighton over the weekend, 1-0 up at St James's Park, and it always seems that Newcastle United, for some fans, are one defeat away from a bit of a crisis. And look, every fan is entitled to their opinion, and I'm not going to sit here and say that Eddie Howe and the players don't deserve some criticism, because I think there is a lot that has not gone right for Newcastle United so far this season. And you look on Saturday and you can question the substitutes that Eddie Howe brought onto the pitch. Was it the right decision to take off Tonali? Perhaps is one question being asked. And all these criticisms are totally valid, and we'll talk more about them later on in the episode. But, and this might surprise a few people who follow the podcast, I'm actually sitting here rather positive about Newcastle United, because I look at the way they played against Everton, strong at the back. I look at the way they played against Brighton, the goal aside, and maybe the last 10 minutes aside. They looked strong again, with Fabian Chen and Dan Burn, really forming a good partnership. Tino Livramento and Lewis Hall and doing okay on either side. At the back, they seem to have got it shored up. They conceded a lot of goals last season. This season, a little bit better. And up top, creating chances. And that's kind of my first reason of 5 to be optimistic, to be positive, is that they are creating chances. Now, I know they haven't scored from open play in 4 games, which is not good. I know that. And they have struggled to score goals this season. Harvey Barnes is their top scorer. Alexander Isak has only got 1 goal. They haven't scored enough. But I'm not sitting here pulling what little hair I have left out, because I'm thinking they're creating chances. I mean, in the Everton game and the Brighton game combined, they've had 35 shots, 87 touches in the opposition box with an expected goals of 4. So they are creating the chances. All that is missing is to put the ball in the back of the net. Now, Eddie Howe can't do any more than coach his side. A lot of people actually pointing out that, on another day, Newcastle United would have won that game 2-3, 4-0 perhaps. They should have been 2 up before Brighton got the goal through Danny Welbeck. So from my point of view, you look at how they played, especially in those first 35 minutes, and even in the second half as well, when they were chasing the game, because there was maybe 3 chances they had to get back into it. I look at that and think Eddie Howe has done all he can do, and it's up to the players to put the ball in the back of the net, and it's such fine margins. On another day, Isak scores. On another day, Gordon scores. There's nothing really Eddie Howe can do about that, and to a degree, there's nothing really that the players can really change with what they do, because Alexander Isak's gone through. He's one-on-one with the keeper. He fires at a goal. On another day, the keeper doesn't get there and it goes past him. So, it's just maybe when you looks out a little bit, but there is certainly enough going forward to leave me confident, to leave me positive, to leave me with optimism that things are going to turn in Newcastle United's favour. Now, look, the run-in isn't all that favourable coming up in the next few weeks, but Chelsea, Arsenal, we've seen Newcastle United beat them in recent seasons, and there's no reason why they can't do that again. And if they can create the same amount of chances against the teams coming up, I'm confident that they're going to score goals. I really, really am. And I think as Alexander Isak gets fitter and as he gets more minutes under his belt and he gets sharper in the mind, the chances that he missed on Saturday against Brighton, he'll be scoring for fun. He'll be scoring with his eyes closed because that's what he has done. And I think it was a little bit unfair, some of the criticism that came his way. Lot to talk about him being out of form when he's missed the best part of a month. He shouldn't have really played against Fulham. He was taking pain relief to get through and he had to go off because it wore off. That's not an ideal situation. If you've got a broken toe, you should not be playing, but anyhow didn't have any option. And no wonder he's a little bit out of sorts because he's just come back from an injury. He hasn't had time to work up the match fitness. His mind's not going to be all that focused, not all that sharp. It's a big ask to ask a man to come in, show that responsibility, scoring goals after you've been out for a month or so. So, I'm not too worried. I look at the stats. I'm thinking, those shots that they've created, those chances that they've made, they're going to turn to goals. They have to turn to goals. They have to. I think they will. And I think we'll start to see Newcastle United score a few goals and hopefully get back to winning ways very, very soon. My second reason to be optimistic, but performances have improved. The start of the season was absolutely dreadful, but they were still picking up points somehow, despite really poor performances. And we all said, it can't go on like this. It's unsustainable. They've got to improve when it comes to their performances. And they have done. It's ironic that as they've improved, they haven't managed to pick up any points, or they picked up, not as many points. But I look at the way, as I've kind of alluded to, that they're playing at the back. I look at the way they're playing when they're going forward. And also, you saw against Brighton, there was real dominance in the middle, which has been lacking. It was probably Joelinton's best game since that game against Southampton on the opening day of the season. The midfield three is just getting used to one another. And we saw in glimpses what they can do going forward. I mean, the chance Isak had, I think it was his second chance, that save in the first half. Tonali to Bruno, through to Isak. That's what that midfield can create. Now, we need to see more goals for them. We need to see them assert their dominance a little bit more. But you look at the stats against Brighton, and they were strong, and they were disciplined, and they were organised. And it's the first time we've really come to see that. Against City, they were really good as well. You would say in the midfield, we just need to see it on a more consistent basis, and then the midfield add goals to their game. But across the whole of the team, since that defeat to Fulham, things have really, really improved. And it just goes back to the first point. If Newcastle United score two of those chances on Saturday, we're probably sitting here saying that was an excellent performance. That was the best performance from Newcastle United in a very, very long while. As it were, they've lost the game. Some people slightly losing their heads, but I think you can't help but look at the performances against City, the defensive performance against Everton, and then the performance really as a whole against Brighton, and not be encouraged, because I don't want to sit here and continue to say game after game, there's always the next game, because we want them to start picking up points. They have to pick up points kind of now. They have to pick up points against Chelsea, really, because of the running. But at the same time, I'm not panicking, because there's enough for me to say it's going to change, and it's going to change in Newcastle's favour. So let me know in the comments what you think. The third reason to be optimistic is that with Alexander Isak returning, you have Anthony Gordon back on the left. And oh my goodness, how good was he on Saturday against Brighton? He just looks so at home on the left. It's where he's comfortable. I don't want to see him pushed out on the right. I don't want to see him played through the middle. I just want him to stay out on the left, where he's best, where he can get the ball and he can just run at defenders. He terrifies them, and then he can cut inside and take a shot, or he can work with Alexander Isak and create a few chances. But we saw on Saturday exactly why Anthony Gordon needs to stay out on the left. And if that comes to the detriment of Harvey Barnes, so be it. I still think Harvey Barnes will prove a lot of people wrong. I still think he has a lot to offer Newcastle United. But in terms of whose spot that left wing should be, it's got to be Anthony Gordon. I don't want to see Harvey Barnes coming in on the left and Gordon pushed over the right, because it just doesn't work. He's not effective enough. Gordon's got to be giving that position on the left above Harvey Barnes. He's got to be given a consistent run of games now in his favourable position, because it will benefit Newcastle United. For me, when Anthony Gordon is there on the left, he's left to his own devices, he's not been moved, he's not been substituted, he's Newcastle United's best player above anybody else. Anthony Gordon on the left flank in that position where he's most comfortable. He's Newcastle United's best player. He's unbelievable. He's got speed, precision, the final products there, the end products there. Eye for goal, tracks back and helps out as well. For me, I'm really excited, and I'm really excited to see the relationship with Lewis Hall as well building up. There's a little bit of a concern about defensively, because Lewis Hall offensively is superb going forward with the ball. He can dink in and out between the defenders. He can shoot on goal. He can put the ball in the back of the net. He's quick. Has Anthony Gordon got the discipline to drop back and help out if Hall goes forward? That's something that now hopefully they're going to get the chance to work on, something that's not been able to have been worked on in recent games, because Gordon's been having to play up front in the absence of Alexander Isak, always been on the right to bring in Harvey Barnes. For me, consistency is key here. Get Gordon on the left, keep him there, allow him to build up this relationship with Lewis Hall so they can work together for the benefit of Newcastle United, and fingers crossed they can build a really good partnership going down that left, because I do think it is Newcastle United's most dangerous side. Number 4. Now, this is a bit of a stretch, I will admit this, because when I say his name, he just makes me a little bit nervous. But the 4th reason to be positive is that Callum Wilson is nearing his return. We think, we hope. We don't know. Is he going to be back for one of these games against Chelsea? Who knows? I'm done guessing. I'm done hoping that he's going to be back sooner rather than later. But there are enough suggestions to think he's going to be back in the next few weeks. And that is a massive, massive boost. We have to keep absolutely everything crossed that he doesn't pick up another injury, which is the fear that is currently twisting my insides, because unfortunately, and I say this with a heavy heart, I do think he'll play 2-3 games, probably get on the score sheet, and then pick up an injury, and we won't see him again till mid-February. Maybe I'm being a little bit over the top. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe I'm just a little bit of a scaredy pants. But I do fear that's going to happen. But the thought of having Callum Wilson back and being available to be picked with no concerns over his injuries is a very exciting one. And if I can just concentrate on that side of the things, and hopefully that's what you guys are doing, we'll forget about the injuries and his tendency to pull up. We'll forget about that. Hopefully he's overcome everything. Hopefully Newcastle United can turn to him without the fear of an injury, because they need him. He is a fantastic goal scorer. He really, really is. A fit Callum Wilson is up there in the Premier League in the top 5 strikers. Now, of course, the frustration is that we've barely seen him of late because of these injuries, and it seems to be one thing after another. But as we say, fingers crossed he's overcome everything. And what else it does, it pushes Alexander Isak. And I think maybe that's what's been lacking from Isak's game before the injury. No one there to push him. William Masula's not the man to push him for his spot. Anthony Gordon's not the man to push him for a spot. And Callum Wilson's been injured. So Isak perhaps has been allowed to get comfortable knowing that, the position is his, but also maybe feeling a little bit stressed because he's got the sole responsibility of carrying Newcastle United. And I think, look, it's easy for me to say, not having been a professional footballer, but I think there will be a kind of a want and to know that there's someone there on the bench who can come on and replace you if you just aren't feeling it, if it hasn't worked out. I think players sometimes know in a game that they could play for 6-7 hours, and every shot they take, doesn't matter how many times they shoot a goal, they are never going to score in that game. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, if you are a professional footballer and you want to offer an opinion on this, correct me if I'm wrong. If you're a fan, you think I'm wrong. I think it's probably good to know that actually you can hold your hands up and say, it's not my day. but there's someone to come on whose day maybe it is. But also, it's just that element of competition that I think Alexander Isak needs, and good for Eddie Howe to have options to change it up when it isn't working. And look, I go back to that game against Brighton on Saturday. Alexander Isak should not have started, in my view. And I don't think Eddie Howe in an ideal world would have wanted to start him. He would have wanted to have a really good backup striker who's filled in for the last 3 or 4 games, who would have started against Brighton and can rival Isak, and Isak doesn't just walk straight back in the team. I mean, the fact that Isak have not played in the last month or so, can just walk straight back into the starting 11, says all you need to know about the options Eddie Howe has. But with Callum Wilson coming back, fingers crossed, we can finally get to see them two together. We can finally see Eddie Howe using options, or just to have options up top, and change it should he need it. So fingers crossed, Callum Wilson back and amongst the goals in the next couple of weeks. And number five, reason to be positive, Sandro Tonali. He is looking like he's nearing his best. And I know there was some frustration about the substitution on Saturday, but we have to trust the manager. He's the one that's working with him day in, day out. He's trying his very best to manage Sandro Tonali's game time. Doesn't want him to break down. He's only played 296 minutes this season in the Premier League for Newcastle. He's featured 6 times. For Italy, he's featured 3 times playing a full 90 minutes, and then once, which was the last game, he's played 80 minutes. So already he's nearing, in fact, we'll do the quick maths, he's played more minutes for Italy than he has Newcastle this season. But, you trust Eddie Howe. I think the exciting thing about him is that you can see he's got talent. You can see he's a very, very good player. He's good on the ball, but he's controlled. He seems disciplined. He's got a bit of strength about him. Okay, we need to see him getting amongst the goals. He's got speed. He's got stamina. He's got a really good engine about him. And I'm excited to see Tonali in full swing. Do I think Eddie Howe has been a little bit cautious? I do. But I think, as always with Eddie, there's logic behind it. We saw when Bruno first signed, he bedded him in, despite Bruno playing week in, week out for Lyon. He took his time with him, and I think that's what he's doing here. And I understand the frustrations. Why not now after he started for Italy? But Eddie Howe's got to think longer term. International break is 2 games in a fortnight. Eddie Howe's got to think over the next kind of few weeks and a few months and the course of the season, really. So I can see from his point of view why he's just been a little bit careful. I think we are probably coming to a stage, though, where it's time for 90 minutes for Sandro Tonali, whether that be against Chelsea this weekend or maybe Arsenal the weekend after in the league remains to be seen. But there's excitement, isn't there? And I talked there about the glimpse that you saw between Bruno and Tim setting up Alexander Isak, and that's what gets you, obviously, that's what gets you excited. A player who doesn't even have to think about it. It's one touch and bang. And Newcastle, where he looks a quality player, he really, really does. And as he gets fitter and he gets healthier and he gets more minutes under his belt and that stamina builds up, we're going to see a real quality player. And I think even if Eddie Howe changes the formation, which some are hoping he does do, I can't see that happening. I think it's a question of Tonali and who. It's Tonali and Bruno if he goes 2 in midfield, it's Tonali and Joe Linton. I think Tonali already is sure enough to suggest he's probably the first choice in that midfield 3 or that midfield 2 if it changes. I'm really excited to see him. I'm sure you guys are as well. Just think Eddie Howe's just been a little bit cautious and for all the right reasons as well. And there's also a quick word for Lewis Hall, who's looking absolutely excellent. And look, guys, if you're not now really optimistic and positive about the next few weeks, then there's nothing more I can do for you. Things are not as bad as they might seem. Newcastle United are 9th. They've only lost twice this season. They're not conceding a boatload of goals. Okay, they need to score more goals, but that will come. Yes, they've got a bit of a tough run in coming up, but they've got Arsenal at St James's Park. We've seen the big teams come to St James's Park and really, really struggle. Chelsea down at Stamford Bridge in the league on Sunday. It's not a given what happens there. Chelsea are looking good, but Newcastle United have proved their way form, and I think can frustrate Chelsea. Then, of course, you've got the Carabao Cup on Wednesday, the 30th. Hopefully, you get through there. And then you get into November with Forest, with West Ham. 2 big games for Newcastle United, but 2 games that you would say, you've really got to be picking up 3 points, and that you would back Newcastle United to pick up a win against West Ham, or certainly on that Monday night. Forest are a difficult side, but Newcastle United should be going down the City ground with the mindset of winning, and Crystal Palace come as well to finish off November. But, those games in November will be affected by what happens in the next 3 outings for Newcastle United: Chelsea Sunday, Chelsea Wednesday, and Arsenal on Saturday, the 2nd of November. It's a big, big 10 days for Newcastle United. What am I betting them on doing? Well, I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I'd say a point down at Stamford Bridge, progression in the Cup, and then a win against Arsenal. But ask me after the 2 Chelsea games about the Arsenal game, and I might change my mind. But reasons to be optimistic, reasons to be positive. Keep the faith, ladies and gents. It's going to turn for the better. Trust me, it definitely will do. Hit that link in the podcast description for your exclusive offer on NORD VPN. I've been Andrew Musgrove. This has been Everything is Black and White podcast. Hope you guys are doing well, and I'll see you guys very soon.